Javier Bardem's portrayal of Anton Chigurh is one of the most haunting performances I've ever seen. He plays a villain that's not motivated by money or power. He's only motivated by his own twisted morality. With his iconic haircut and his cattle gun, he became one of the most horrifying villains on screen, and in today's video, I'm going to take a look at why. The film No Country for Old Men is an adaptation of the Cormac McCarthy book of the same name. However, in this video, I'm only going to be covering the film version. The film follows Llewellyn Moss, played by Josh Brolin, who arrives at a crime scene that's yet to be discovered by the police. There was only one survivor who escaped, and he hid under a tree, but he too died after bleeding out. At the man's feet is a case with $2 million inside, and the plot of the film is the fallout from Llewellyn's decision to take the money. Once the money is found missing, Anton Chigurh is hired to track it down, and he's not someone you want after you. Our first introduction to Anton Chigurh is when he's arrested by a police officer and taken to a police station. A detail I really love is how it shows the police officer in the foreground, with Chigurh blurred in the background. It makes it even more ominous, as we can't exactly see what he's doing, but we see enough to know he's escaping from his leg cuffs. He then slowly walks forward towards the police officer, who's distracted by a phone call, and then he strangles him. And while he's strangling him, it looks almost like he's smiling, and it's at that moment that we realise that he isn't just your standard criminal, he's definitely crazy. This is probably the most intensely violent moment in the film, and putting it right at the beginning was a great choice, as it shows the audience straight away who they're dealing with. Something also to note about the film is there's no music in it, so while all this is happening, there's just the sounds of their boots scratching on the floor, and the police officer struggling. It makes it even creepier than if they had some kind of drum beat in the background. After the police officer is dead, Chigurh calmly washes the blood from his wrists, and that smile when he was strangling the police officer is one of the only times he displays any sort of emotion in the film. While Chigurh is looking for Llewellyn, there's also another character after him, Sheriff Ed Tom Bell, played by Tommy Lee Jones. This is another choice I really like. We get to see Chigurh from two perspectives. Firstly, the man he's chasing, that lets us see his methodology and how intelligent he is, and then secondly the man who's after him, which lets us see how he evades capture, and the aftermath of what he leaves behind. After Chigurh escapes the police station, he stops a car, and we see his signature method of killing. He uses a bolt gun that's commonly used for slaughtering animals. I think that's how he sees people, as just cattle or obstacles. Like later in the film when he's speaking to the chicken farmer, the man keeps talking, and he looks at him with such disgust. Apart from the first kill we see, he barely even reacts, and it's like they're just objects in the way of what he wants. One of the most, if not the most important scene in the film, is at the gas station. Chigurh is paying for his gas when the man behind the counter starts asking him personal questions, like where he's from. This annoys Chigurh so much, and he asks the man what business is it of his where he's from. The man quickly gets nervous. I mean, who wouldn't be with this guy annoyed at you? Chigurh starts questioning the man, and the man tells him that this place was his wife's father's. Chigurh asks him to clarify whether he married into it, and it makes the man really uncomfortable. He gives a non-answer saying they've lived there for years, and Chigurh pushes him again. The man then says if that's the way you want to put it, but Chigurh replies, that's the way it is. This scene is great and it shows Chigurh's outlook. The man's uncomfortable because the truth probably feels emasculating to him, as he got his wealth somewhat untraditionally through his wife, but Chigurh only wants the truth, and he hates that the man is deflecting. He then makes the man pick heads or tails, to see whether he lives or dies, and this scene is so important because it shows Chigurh's belief in determinism. Determinism is the belief that all events, including human actions, are completely the result of past events, meaning that things couldn't have happened another way. He tells the man that the coin's been travelling since 1958, all the way to reach here, and now he has to call it. The theme of determinism comes up later in the film as well. The man picks heads correctly, and he's allowed to live, and it shows that Chigurh will follow the rules of his own twisted morality, even if he doesn't want to. Chigurh tells the man not to put the coin in his pocket, or it will get mixed in with the others, and become just another coin, which it is, and it's such a great line. He wants the man to understand the significance of the coin, but he knows it's just metaphysical, and the coin itself is unremarkable. One of the most tense parts of the film is the motel sequence. Chigurh tracks the money using a transponder, but Llewellyn has already moved it. Instead of finding Llewellyn, Chigurh walks into a room full of cartel members, and methodically kills them all. But the best part isn't the shootout itself, it's all the parts before. Chigurh checks an identical room first, learning the layout. He checks for hiding spaces like the shower, and he even checks the material of the wall, which he later shoots through knowing that he can. I love those little details, and it makes the film even better when re-watching it. And when you know what's coming, you can really see how thorough he is. Woody Harrelson's character, Carson Wells, is the only person who actually seems to know Chigurh. He's also a bounty hunter, and he's been hired to deal with the same situation. When Wells talks about him, you can hear a little bit of fear in his voice, and maybe even a bit of dark admiration. He understands that Chigurh isn't just another bounty hunter, he has his own code that goes beyond money. One of my favourite pieces of characterisation in the film is how they use Llewellyn as a foil to show the contrast between the two. After the second shootout in a different hotel, both of them are injured, and the contrast between how they deal with it is telling. Llewellyn makes his way across the border and either passes out or falls asleep, and he wakes up asking for a doctor. When he wakes up in hospital, the bounty hunter Carson Wells is already there and has found him. Chigurh, meanwhile, sets a car on fire outside a pharmacy, as he knows that his injuries will bring questions and attention he doesn't want. While everyone's distracted by the car fire, he goes and steals medical supplies and patches himself up in a hotel room. He does it all by himself, with very little emotion, even when he's removing shrapnel from his body. The contrast between the two shows how professional one is, and how out of his depth Llewellyn really is. It's a great piece of characterisation without explicitly saying anything through dialogue. When Chigurh finally confronts Carson Wells, the conversation is chilling. Wells tries to negotiate, even though he knows he can't. Chigurh doesn't negotiate, and he tells him to admit his situation. One of my favourite lines in the film is where Carson tells Chigurh to go to hell, and Chigurh just laughs in a rare display of emotion, and he just says alright. Chigurh is certain that the money will be brought to him and placed at his feet, which goes back to the theme of fate and determinism. He says it like it's a fact, and it will happen no matter what. The phone then rings and he kills Carson, and it's Llewellyn. Chigurh tells Llewellyn that he's going to Odessa to see Llewellyn's wife. Llewellyn's actual death happens off screen, and we only see the aftermath. The cartel reaches him and takes the money, and having it happen off screen was divisive for a lot of people, but I think it works perfectly with the themes of the film. It ties back to fate, and death is one of the main themes of the film. Also, having the sheriff arrive too late shows that the world is outpacing him again. But all that's really a whole other video. That's the last we hear about the money, and that plot point doesn't have a neat resolution, like a lot of things in this film. Even after Llewellyn is dead, Chigurh still goes to see his wife, showing he'll still follow his rules, even when he doesn't have to. And this is one of the most important scenes in the film. Carla refuses to play the coin toss game. He tells her to pick heads or tails, but she won't call it. And for the first time, we see a little break in Chigurh's absolute control of the situation. It isn't because he feels guilty, it's because someone refused to play his game. It's worth noting that the two people whose fate he left up to the coin were ones who weren't directly in his way, or involved in any criminal activity. It's like the coin is his way of justifying killing someone he views as innocent, and the coin leaves the decision out of his hands, and leaves it to fate. As with his view of determinism, if they call the coin incorrectly, then their death was always meant to happen, and he's just carrying it out. I always saw Carla Jean as representing free will, as opposed to determinism. Free will isn't exactly the opposite of determinism, but it does mean our choices are genuine choices, and she chooses to reject the game. Her fate is left ambiguous. We see Chigurh check his shoes after leaving the house, presumably for blood, but we never actually see him kill her, and that's another plot point that isn't tied up neatly. Near the end, Chigurh is hit by a car and badly injured. The film deliberately shows that he goes through a green light, again tying back to the theme of fate and the randomness of our chaotic world. He followed the rules of the green light and still got hit, and it's as though it was always going to happen and there's nothing he could do about it. Two kids rush to help him, and he pays for one of their shirts and their silence. He still pays them, showing that he still sticks to his internal code, even when he doesn't have to. He walks away and that's the last we see of him. I've seen a lot of people think the car crash at the end is random, but I think it's actually done deliberately, as it shows him being hurt by his deterministic rules. So Chigurh survives, and the film doesn't punish him. The audience aren't given the justice they want. Sheriff Bell's final monologue about his dreams is the closest thing the film offers to a resolution, but that's it. The film isn't really about good versus evil. It's a film about death, and how old men are outpaced by the chaos of the world. The sheriff finds the modern world incomprehensible, yet Chigurh moves through it with absolute certainty. I also think Anton Chigurh in some ways personifies death, which is a key theme of the film. He can't be stopped and is certain, and he doesn't care either way. and that's why he's still one of the most horrifying characters ever put on screen. He never explains himself. That's mainly done through other characters, or implied by what he does. And I think that's what makes him such an interesting character, as so much is left up to the audience to discuss. I'm Firelink from Firelink Frontier, and thanks for watching everyone. Let me know your thoughts on Anton Chigurh in the comments, and let me know what's your favourite scene in the film. Also, if any of you have read the book, let me know if you'd recommend it. If you've enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe and become a member. Thanks for watching everyone.